Hi everyone, Tally and Farrell here from Board of It, and welcome to our monthly look back video for October 2021.
And if you haven't seen this format before, essentially because our reviews are time consuming and we only get the chance to put out a few per month and we have to pick the games, this is a more informal way to chat to you about some of the games that we've been playing, what we enjoyed, maybe what we hated, maybe something that we found interesting. And we preface these with interesting, prestigious awards to tell you a little bit about what we thought of the game, or maybe a pun on the game, or something of that nature. And hopefully, if you have seen this before, it'll be a little shorter than usual because of two reasons. One, we've had to go back to the UK almost weekly for weddings, and we haven't had time to really play any big, interesting games. And what we have played has tended to be things we've already talked about, like Fire and Tinner's Trail. Then we also have a few smaller games, like some roll and writes, and that's because we've been taking them when we travel and thoroughly enjoying them. But and there's just not as much to talk about with a small roll and write in a small box. But shall we jump to it? Shall we get to the awards?
Let's get to the awards. So first up, we have the End of the Line Award, and that goes to Metro X, the rail and write game. So this is a flip and write that we've been very much enjoying about crossing off stations on a city's metro system. So you'll be flipping a card which will have a number on it, and the goal is essentially to cross off as many stations on the network as you possibly can and complete the lines. But the puzzle is that the lines are all intersecting like a real city's metro, and with the number that you flip, you can only work as far along a line until you reach a station that's already crossed off. So you've really got to plan and think about when you cross off each station, and in order to maximise the numbers that are coming out on the card. Because if you get a 6, but you can cross off 3 on a line and then there's one that's filled in, you can't go any further unless you get a special card, but they are few and far between. So it's all about planning and being efficient with your numbers.
Yeah, what I find interesting is that you only have a deck of 15 cards, and there's 4 different types. So there's 2 number cards, which are basically as you described, except one will let you skip those aforementioned stations, so you don't have to stop when you reach one you've crossed out. There's transfers, which are another way to score points, where you want to put a transfer in a station where lots of lines converge, and then you get points for how many lines converge there. And then there's just a free one that lets you cross out a station anywhere on the map, regardless of where it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what's interesting is you only have 15 cards, and it's mainly just numbers. But because they're shuffled at random, and there's a card that when you draw it, it makes you reshuffle them. It's not like one of these games where you know every card and you know what's going to come up and you can forward plan, because we've had games where it's just continuously reshuffled and reshuffled and reshuffled like 5 times in a game, and you just don't see cards that you're like counting on.
Yes. Yeah, the cards that are going to make your life easier are the free ones, and they let you just cross off any station and a skip. But yeah, like Farrell said, you just can't guarantee that they're going to come up. You can wishfully hope that they're going to come up, but sometimes they just don't. We've been really enjoying it. It's very quick. I think we can have a game down in about 10 minutes. The setup is lightning quick, maybe takes 10 seconds because there's absolutely minimal components, just your player board, a pen and 1 deck of cards, like you said. So it can really be out on the table so quick, and I think that's probably why we've been playing it a lot since we got it as well. It's just, let's have a quick game of Metro X. And it's also, I've got a bit addicted to it because I wasn't very good at it in the beginning. So
also because you've won a few times now, so you feel like you can
actually
go for the challenge,
Yeah, that's true. What's pretty cool, actually, is that it's a double-sided player mat as well. So there's 2 different tube maps that you can
Metro
play
City
with.
and Tube Town.
Yeah, that's it. One's more complex, right?
I think it's supposed to be,
yeah, so that's pretty cool because it can shake things up as well.
Yeah.
Completely non-interactive though. There's no interaction whatsoever. So good for any play account.
Well, except for the race to get to the end.
Okay, that's true.
You get less points if anyone's after the first person.
That's true.
But there's no real way to meaningfully interact. It's just a race.
Yeah, that is true. So yeah, this has actually become one of my favourite little.
Yeah,
little
we've played
games.
it a lot. I think we're on like 5 or 6 plays now.
Yeah.
We only got it like a week ago. Just because, we've been playing when we've been travelling and stuff.
Yeah.
It's been quite nice. The first time we played it was extremely funny because we'd been drinking all night at my parents' house. And then this was like, we only played it because we were waiting for food to cook. And we were like really drunk and wanted to go to bed.
Oh my God.
And you were just like, I was like explaining that, like, the metro line, you put an X on it. And you're like... You're just like, yeah, you're like concussed. You're just like, I don't understand. What's the skip? I don't get it. It was really funny.
Yeah, I don't really have any recollection of that. I didn't even drink that much. But
Yeah.
anyway.
I think that was a better score than the second time you played, though.
Potentially, yeah.
I think you're just, maybe you're more tired.
Uninhibited as well, like.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy this as well. I think you maybe enjoy it slightly more than me. But I think the only thing for me is the randomness puts me off a tiny bit. I think the fact that you can know the cards because it's easy to know the cards, but you can't predict what's going to come up. So you can't like plan. So it's a bit random where you can be like, okay, I'm going to set up this like great transfer and get 10 points. And then the transfer like never comes up for the entire game.
That's true.
I don't like Dallin, but at the same time, I do admit that because of the reshuffle card, it creates like the replayability and the variability game to game, because otherwise I think it'll be quite boring because you'd eventually get like combinations where you'd know what to do every time.
Yeah.
Whereas here you can't, maybe you'll never get a skip and you just have to work with that. And I think that's what also keeps it interesting, but it also, slightly maybe, but I do really like it.
Yeah.
And it's often on lists of the top 10 roll and write games if this is your genre.
Yeah.
But yeah, shall we move on?
Yeah.
But yeah, so a good little travel game, good recommendation from us. That was Metro X.
So next up we have another roll and write, which wins the Savage and Write award. And that goes to Lost Cities. So in Lost Cities, everyone has their player sheet and you write with a pen. It's not a wipeable one like Metro X. And essentially you are an archaeologist, I suppose, trying to discover some lost cities. And you have different expedition tracks on the sheet and some other different tracks. And basically you just go around rolling some dice. 3 have numbers, 3 have symbols, and you get to pick a combination. The symbol represents the different expedition tracks, and the numbers, how you write them in your expedition, you have to work in ascending order. So obviously you wouldn't want to go ahead and start your expedition with a number 9, because then you'd always have to have number 9, or you can only have a number 10, because it always has to go ascending. So you have to be a bit clever about which symbols and numbers you're taking at which time. And there are certain bonuses where expeditions can get you double points, so you want to make sure to be working on those, because if you don't get high enough up the track, you're going to get negative points.
Yeah.
The little twist is that every round, one of the players will take a symbol and number combination for themselves that nobody else is allowed to use, leaving the remaining 2 number dice and symbol dice for the rest of the players. So that's why it gets the Savage and Write award.
Yeah.
Because we played it first with 2 players, and it's a little bit annoying when someone takes the combination that you want and the other person does it. But we found that when we played with 3, it was a lot more savage and brutal because it takes one more turn to get around, so you can pick your own combination.
That's true, actually. I didn't think of that, but that's a good point of why. I also thought it was more savage because when somebody takes the dice at everyone wants, there's just more like swearing and yelling than if there's 2 people. Because you have 2 people like ganging up on you and like yelling at you.
We were like, you...
Yeah, there was one of the board games that's instigated the most swearing.
Yeah, despite it being in this little tiny box and like all cute and nice. But
6 dice, a piece of paper and a pencil. Yeah. But yeah, it's so what do you think then?
Yeah, really like it. I'm really loving these kind of smaller box games. Maybe that's just like you said at the top of this video, because we don't have a lot of time these days and it's just fitting into our life quite well. But I always find them really nice to just sit down at the end of the night with a cup of tea and play something like this. I really like this game. I mean, I guess it's not something to write home about. It's not wildly exciting.
Was that pun intended?
No, I didn't even realise what you meant, so it definitely wasn't intended.
Okay. Comedy gold then, natural.
Yeah, just goddamn natural. Yeah, it's nothing to write home about. It's not that exciting, but I mean, it's just fun, right? And I think it's quite interesting about the puzzle with the numbers, and it's enough to keep you engaged. And
I think it's like, compared to Metro X, obviously, because it's roll and write, I think I both like it more and less in some ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think I somehow like the puzzle more because it's cleaner, but there's also much less there, so I like it less in that regard, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think the puzzle buzzes me a bit more because with Metro you can't really predict. Like, I know you have the dice here, but at least you can like say, I know what I need to do if this comes next.
Okay, that's true.
But I think
more forecasting of what you're going to do.
Yeah. I think for me, again, this I think this is, it's like you say, it's something to write home about. It's nice. It's a good little box. It only costs like £10 or £12. So I think for that, it's like worth it for a nice little travel game. I mean, like, you don't even need the box. You could just, now it's like all these rule books. But I mean, you could just take the booklet like in a bag and a pencil, right? But yeah, I think again, where it fails for me a little bit is the randomness. Because one player is always taking out 2 of the dice and leaving people with the rest. I think there's definitely an element of luck, maybe even more so than Metro X, because players have to use the same in Metro X. So although you could plan something and then you fail because it doesn't come up, at least people did different things with the same input. Yeah. Whereas here, because somebody takes the dice out, it can be that, it could be the start of the game and they could take a 1 and like whatever colour, and then everyone else has a 8 and a 9, and they have no choice but to pass. And now they're like 1 less down on the ladder, because you can't just put an 8 in straight away, because it's going to be incredibly difficult to do anything with that. Yeah,
I think randomness in these like small games just doesn't bother me as much, because I almost expect it in a lighter game. Maybe that's wrong. Then you can still have a lighter game that has 0 randomness. But I think for me, how you play it, when we're playing it, in the kind of environments, and I just think it is what it is.
No,
it doesn't bother me.
I agree. I enjoy it. I think it's not to say it's bad at all. I just think that here, what I'm trying to say is that you can have a winner just like pure, like if somebody, because you can, like you said, double your scores with the right roll. And if you get 2 of those rolls only on your turns early on, then you're going to win. Like, everyone knows you're going to win, because if no one else gets double points and you get them early, because you get double points for the entire track. So it's like, it's a lot of shiftage in the scores. And then, but I think, again, it's like a nice, like, simple game. And because it plays so quickly, it's forgivable.
Yeah.
Because it's not made to be, the pinnacle of game design. So I think, as we got to take on. But I think that'll be my negative a bit, is that I think you can maybe play this a few times and maybe the dice don't roll and just get quite frustrated with it, I could see.
Yeah.
But then also, on the other hand, I guess you would hope that it would balance out if you played a few games in a row, which you could do because it's quick.
I quite like how it has some different things going on. The cascading effects a little bit.
Oh, yeah,
it just
that's
adds a little bit more interest. Good. So on the tracks, on certain spaces, you get an accelerator. So if you write a number over that accelerator arrow, you get to place a number in another track, and then you might get another bonus there if you also do accelerator. Really good. Or you might write over, there's certain places on the track that have, I'm calling it a pot. Is it a pot?
I think it's
pottery.
A pot. I think it's called a pot in the rules.
And then if you cross over the pot, you get to cross over a pot on the separate pottery track. So that is just going to get you more points. So there's some things to think about there. Sometimes maybe you want to cross one off on an expedition that you're not really leaning into to go all the way up to the top, but you might want to cross it so you can cross off another pot on the other track because you're further up that, or get an accelerator. Yeah. So there is some like little decisions to make, I think.
No, you're right. I think I forgot the accelerations and these things, but it is great to combo, because in the last game we played, I think I comboed like 4 times, whereas like acceleration, I just got like 4 and 5 in one turn. and like the feeling when you combo that together
satisfying.
is, yeah, exactly. But I think let's move on. I think we've spent more than enough time on Lost Cities. But yeah, something to check out if you just want to spend a tenner and have like a little roll and write, something simple, something to take on your holidays.
Yeah.
Yep. So now we come on to the next award, and that award is the Only Game That I'm Not Good At award.
My favourite award.
And that is directed at me, and the game that gets that award is Bus, because this game absolutely, I have to move aside, absolutely blows my mind every time we play. And usually I would say I'm an absolute natural, at least picking up the mechanics and like what you're supposed to do in the game and how to read the board and like grok it. And I'm not saying that I win every time, but I can at least like get into the mindset of the game and know what I'm trying to do, even if I don't pull it off.
Yeah.
And we've played Bus twice, and honestly,
It blows your little brain, doesn't it?
it blows my brain, and I've come like dead last both times, and I'm just like not even getting close.
It's weird though, because we have similar games.
Yeah.
And you're okay.
Yeah.
Something, I don't know what it is about Bus that just really bamboozles you.
Yeah, maybe it's because we've been drinking both times we've played it. I think I just get lazy
That's
and
a poor man's excuse.
Well, so if you don't know Bus, it's a very old game from, well, say old, nearly as old as me.
The 90s.
Yeah, the 90s, from the 90s. That is about creating like a bus route in a city. And this is actually a reprint by Capstone Games, and I do recommend the quality of it. It's incredibly lovely, the components, the artwork. There's lots of like in-jokes on the map with all the streets named after like Capstone Games and stuff like that. Yeah, it's just a really nice package. And what you're trying to do is like almost a very simple worker placement, except it's not. Because you have like 5 or 6 worker placement spaces, which are like extend your bus route, add buses to your bus route, add passengers to the board. Whilst you have drive your buses and put buildings on the board. And the way it works is that each day, well, not day, I guess each round, I don't know if, I guess because it is like one day is like 3 rounds technically, right?
Okay, yeah.
So basically, you'll go through a round, and towards the end of the round, this big clock will change, and it will say, okay, it's not home time anymore, it's work time. Then every like passenger on the board will come out of home if they're in home, and go into an office if they're next to an office space. And if they're not, then they're stuck there, and they want to get to the office, so they need to ride a bus. And you get points for getting passengers where they need to go. But it's like so difficult and cutthroat because it's a spot game, because you have like all these different people, only so many passengers, like depending like the order you do things in, or like it's so brutal and cutthroat, and there's so many little things that can happen that you have to account for that can change like everything because it's so interactive.
Yeah, it reminds me of Food Chain Magnate in that way of
Exactly.
There's a limited amount of passengers on the board, they might not be in the right place, and you're competing essentially with your components with your opponents to get the passengers on your bus. So it's that kind of thing where it's like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, there's limited amounts that you're all trying to work with.
And yeah, it's just it's things like, you can look at the board at the start of the round and go, right, I'm in a good position here. I need to like be the first to move my buses around, and so get first crack at the passengers. And then next thing you know, somebody's built like 4 more bus lines, and they've like stopped time, and then nothing moves, and they like move all the passengers like somewhere else, and it's just stuff like that.
Steal your passengers.
And it's just like sometimes I just, for some reason, both times I've played, I really struggle to like read the board and like foresee everything.
Yeah.
And
usually I'm bad at that, but I've been quite good at this game. I won, didn't I, the other day?
Yeah, you did.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was the best
Close,
day of my
but
life. Yeah, usually I'm quite bad at foreseeing the state of the boarding in games like this, where you really don't know what it's going to be like. But for some reason, this one's okay for me, sort of. Or maybe it's just complete luck that I've won because I don't feel like when I'm playing the game, I know what's going to happen.
Did something right.
It just seems to work out.
Yeah, I think for me, I do feel like it's what I said the other night when we played that. When I play games, I play almost entirely instinctively. Like, I don't sit and particularly analyze and like point count. I just like whatever comes into my mind, I kind of do. And obviously sometimes in some games I'll be like, right, well, I'm going to aim for this whatever thing in a few rounds, but I kind of just like...
Yeah, more reactive.
Yeah, I'm definitely way more reactive. And I feel like in this game you do need to be like, right, well, Tally's going first on her routes. Where's she going to build her routes? Like this, and then this. And you need to take like 17 things, and you need to count the passengers. It's like, if she drives her bus first, she's going to take those passengers, and she's going to put them in the worst. And like, I think I just don't. I get like
you've got to do.
And I'm just like, I'm just gonna do what I think is right.
You've got to think about every possible timeline that might happen,
100%.
And what other people might do, and how that might influence that. And you got to forecast.
Yeah.
All the different possibilities.
But yeah. So what do you think then, having played it twice?
Yeah. Well, obviously, I really enjoyed it last time because I won. No, it's good. It's brutal. There's not a lot. There's no room for making any mistakes. It's that kind of game. You only get 20 actions, and most of the time you play 2 per round, but you can use more. But knowing that you have a limit of 20 actions total in the whole game, you have to be very careful with. You wouldn't want to just use up all of your actions, 5, because then it wouldn't leave you with any, and then all of the other players would have it. I do like it, but it's kind of a bit stressful. You got to be in the right mood for it. And that kind of game. It's one that you have to really, like we said, think about all of the possibilities. So it's not. I think it's quite. The actions are not complex, but you really the strategy is complex.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's pretty heavy, even though you're just putting some sticks which represent bus lines on a board. So definitely avoid if you don't like heavier games or brutal games.
Yeah.
But I mean,
if you like interactive games, then this is the one to get.
Yeah.
It does not feel
that kind of thing. So
it does not feel like it came out like 30 years ago. Well, no, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like
it holds up super well, actually. Yeah.
So there was one more thing I was going to say. What it reminds me of, weirdly, almost the most out of any game, is The King is Dead. In that the actions themselves, like to teach it to someone, and the actions is incredibly simple. It's like, this lets you put more bus lines down. You put more bus lines down. This lets you, like, you know, put buildings down. It's like it's just like really simple actions, but when you get down to it and picking them and like where to put things, you're like, and that's what always made me laugh about The King is Dead, is that it's this game where all you do is you like play one card and you move 2 cubes like that, but people sit there for like you can see like gamers who play Twilight Imperium for 6 hours and not break a sweat, like being like, and that's what Bus does.
It's all the way through as well, isn't it? From the first phase where you place your action markers, or like, let's call them workers, in what order you're going to place them, where do you want to, like, what actions do you want to take, knowing that you mostly only do 2 or 3 every round. And then once you get down to it, okay, let's say that I was choosing to build buildings that round. Where do I want to place my buildings? Where's going to be the best place? Actually, if I put a pub there, that's going to benefit Farrell because if his line is there or whatever it might be. And even down to if you're if you chose to do the action where you are driving passengers, where do they need to be for next time? Yeah. Because next round they're going to want to go back home, and you need to get them in the right places to benefit you next round. Yeah. It's intense. It's intense.
But yeah, so I guess we'll move on. But I think Bus is one that in the future I would like to review, I believe, just because I find it really interesting. But also because you need 3 to 5 players, I think it'll be a while before we've played enough times to like feel good with it. Yeah. Next up, we have the Indiana Jones Award, and that goes to The Quest for El Dorado. a Reiner Knizia Classic that we finally got our hands on very recently, and we've played it like 5 times in about a week. This is, if you don't know it, it's a very simple deck builder, but it's also a race game where you have to get across these terrain tiles, and each terrain tile, these big hexes, and the big hexes split into little hexes, which are all different terrains. And to move, you need to play a card. So a green card will let you move on green terrains. Money card, beige card will let you move on money beige tiles, and so on. There's water tiles, stuff like that. Impassable terrain. And it's a race. So what you can also do is you can spend your money cards to buy better cards, and then they go in your deck. Then you use them, and you can move further, or you can do special power type things. And it's just a bit of a race, and it's a classic. I can see why.
You called it like a My First Deck Builder.
Yeah, My First Deck Builder is how people call it. So what do you think then?
Yeah, I do really like it. Definitely. Oh, number 1. And what did you say? We played 5 or 6 games?
4, I think, I would say at least.
I was so close last time. I thought I had you there. So annoying.
I had because in the 2-player game, you have to get 2 people to the finish line, both of them. And I had one that was like really far behind, and yours were both ahead. And then I pulled it up and then like slingshotted them both to the end. One was great.
Yeah, I really like it. Definitely falls into the Friday night beer and snacks game. It is really easy. We played it with your mum and a non-gamer friend. They picked it up really quickly.
Got into it.
Yeah, got really into it. It is very random, and I think that's why it falls into that category for me. Obviously, you're supposed to build your deck in the most optimal way, but it is still random which cards you end up in your hand every time. So it can be a bit frustrating because I've for sure got to points where I just couldn't do anything. I got stuck on behind certain terrains. So there's one hex where maybe it's mostly jungle terrain, and I just wasn't pulling up any jungle cards at all in my hand, and that is random. And there's quite limited, I would say, ways of getting rid of the worst cards in your hand, the duds or your starter cards.
I think you're right about that.
You have to really detour. So there's some hexes on some tiles. No, what is it? Some hexes on the tiles where you go there and you can get rid of cards out of your deck, but they're really few and far between. They're usually at the very edges where you really want to cut across the tiles to get to the end, to get to El Dorado in the quickest possible way. And I just don't think it's worth going that far off course to just get rid of one card.
Yeah.
So I would personally like more ways of either cycling through cards or just getting rid of the dud cards, because then it really kind of you can fall very easily victim to the randomness, because there's not enough ways of, you just end up with like an inflated deck, I feel like, if you keep buying better cards.
That's true.
Rather than actually being able to craft your deck, I think. But I mean, it's just a bit of fun. So, and it is fun. I like the race. We always like race games that are tense. So.
Yeah, that's good. I think that last one when I won was incredibly tense and fun. Well, I will say I disagree a little bit. I think I don't find it as random as you.
Yeah.
But I do think, because I've won every time, so it must be pure skill. But I do find it can be hard, because I do find those terrain hexes are out of the way. So sometimes I'd quite like to go there and I can't, it's just like too far. And the other thing is you can buy cards that will let you discard, and I've done that. But because whoever buys, so the way the marketplace works is when all of the cards of one type are gone, someone else, next time they buy cards, can bring in a new type of card. And if you don't get the chance to do that before a certain point, you might not get the chance to bring them in, because if there's a gap and I want to bring in a card that will let me get rid of cards, which I've done before quite well and then had a really slim deck. But if then Tally brings in the Millionaire, then I don't have any chance to get rid of them. So you're right, it can be really...
taking up a space in the marketplace.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be nice if that rule wasn't there and you could just buy all of the cards were available, or maybe you could get to certain points in the track and then they'd become available. So it wouldn't suffer with that. But then I suppose it is just another element of tension, which is fun, in that you want to be the first one to bring that new card into the marketplace. So I think, you know, it is what it is.
But I think this is a great family weight game. As we said, my mum, she really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We played 2 games back to back. She nearly won the second one until I just got like incredible hands right at the end and kind of overtook her. But it's definitely a good recommendation if you're looking for a lighter game, a simpler game for family, game that you don't have to think about too much, but that's exciting and thrilling. It does maybe feel like a little bit older, I think, now.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy it. Yeah. So I think we'll leave it there for this one and go on to the final game. Unless you have anything else you want to say?
No final thoughts.
Okay.
So the final award of our October look back is the Lifetime Achievement Award, and that goes to Scythe. And it goes to Scythe because this is our all-time favourite game. It's the game that got us deep into the board game hobby. As regular viewers of this channel will likely know, we absolutely love Scythe. We included it in this video because we got it back out this month a couple of times, actually.
Yeah, it was great.
After a few months of not playing. Was it, how many months did you say? 6 months or something.
Yeah, so we actually talked about this. We just did a video, which if you haven't seen it, it was, we covered our 10 most played games. So we went through, we keep records of what we play and how many times and when. And we went through and we just discussed our 10 most played games because there was quite an interesting disparity between what the games we love and the games that we got to the table most.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if it's easier to get to the table, you play it more, and that definitely seemed to trump games that we love more. Anyway, so it's just we were saying that because the list was only started since we played the channel, since we started the channel, what we played since we started the channel, we finally got there. And before we started the channel, Scythe was like incredibly by far our most played game, probably, you know, dozens and dozens of times, easy. But it doesn't even make the top 10 since we've had the channel, because the first 6 months or so we didn't play it, and then we played it here and there at Christmas a couple of times, and then maybe 1 or 2 more times. And then we haven't played it for like 6 months again, and now I've played it 3 times. And
but we absolutely love it. It's something that we'll keep in our collection forever, hence the award name. I won't talk about what the game actually is too much, because I think most people will probably know. But it's a game set in an alternative history where you are playing as a faction in Europe vying for power. But essentially it is a turn optimization resource management game with a little bit of combat.
Yeah. Very classic Stonemaier, has some great minis, has some great components.
Yeah.
Some lovely artwork. And it's just, we've said this before, but it's our favourite game. And what we always worried is after we started playing like more and more games to kind of review on the channel and all kinds of different games, we always worried that maybe now, because we do know like a lot of our favoritism of this is nostalgia as well, and the good times we had, and we worry that we go back to it and then we're like, this is actually kind of average and we didn't like it, but every time we still get it out, we're like, it's like this internal feeling, we're like, oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah. Well, we played it with our friend who moving away from Copenhagen, didn't we? Who was our buddy when we first got it. Us three were just playing it non-stop for weeks and weeks, and we had to have a final game with him before he moved away.
Yeah, so good.
We also got another game in with another friend this month. He had played it once or twice before, I think.
Yeah, at least 2 or 3 times, I think.
Yeah, but it is kind of tricky, I think, if you don't internalize all of the different sub rules to remember what they are. So I always feel like when we introduce, well, you said that you really have an aversion to trying to teach this to new people now, because for us, it's so easy because we're just almost playing speed scythe. We know what we're doing, and you kind of don't realise how many sub rules and different things there are to remember until you teach it to someone else, and they try to do something, and then you have to, you can't do that. Oh, the character can do that, but the mechs can't do that, and all of this stuff. So it's always a bit tricky for new players.
I think the issue is as well, it's like if you know it, it's actually quite logical because they separate like, oh, if it's wood, it can't go into combat. If it's plastic, it can. And then it's like, the mechs can carry people, but the character can't because it's a character, which like makes sense, and so on and so forth. But yeah, that's the thing is that, so it's kind of sad that our friend moved away who played the most Scythe with, because we always had really like tight, challenging games. And the issue when we play with our friend Vahab now is that he's only played like 3 or 4 times. And me and Tally are like...
Destroy him, let's just say it.
Scythe geniuses. And we absolutely nail him to the wall. It's just like embarrassing. I feel really bad, but I'm like, there's no real way to help you because we've played it like so much. I
think we've just got what I would like to do is get him to play Rise of Fenris with us, so he plays a lot of games in succession, because he will get it. I think it's just because there's big gaps between playing. We might only play one game. We've got to sit him down, play multiple games, and then he'll get it, and then he'll be a worthy competitor.
Because he actually played really well, I think, in one of the last games we played with him, but he just got completely annihilated right at the end, where he like lost 2 battles. So he lost like a bunch of territory, he lost the factory, and then he just ended up like being in the lowest popularity, so he got nothing. But he actually did quite well in like optimization terms.
Yeah, that's true actually.
But
didn't he do something weird with a battle though, and we were both
he didn't realise. I think
did you do that?
He didn't realise it was like my last star or something, or he thought that I was going to fake battle and then come back, so he like underbid because he didn't know it was my last star.
No, that was it. He went into battle with me and only bid 2 or 3 power or something.
And you bid like 4.
Yeah, maybe I did actually.
Yeah, because you didn't care, and then he somehow.
No, I think he thought that I wouldn't care, but I did because it got me a star or something like that. But
I don't know, but yeah. But yeah, we had a good time. It's always nice to get it out and to just like real warm feeling inside when we play it. Yeah. So it's nice to know that like this is a game we'll always have in the collection and we'll go back to and always be happy to play. So that's all we want to say, that it was nice to get it back on the table. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to add about that?
It was very fun to play with our upgrades that we got from Top Shelf Gamer. Yeah. I really enjoyed playing, using those with Scythe. So we had the food sacks and we used the toxic waste upgrades that we have in place of oil cans, and that really elevated the experience for me. I very much enjoyed it.
That's good. Yeah. I'm in 2 minds in that I actually like both a lot. I really like the original. I find them really charming. But I also like the wheat, for example, I think is really great. Yeah. So I like to have a combination of both.
That's fair. You probably need both at some point anyway. Yeah.
So, but I like that. Especially if you get that encounter card that's like put 10 wheat on the board or whatever.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, so that was our final game. And just like to say thank you for watching. We'll be back in the next couple of weeks with reviews, I think. I'm not sure of what yet, but certain that they're games that we really enjoy. And just thank you for watching. We hope it was helpful. Let us know what you've been playing. Let us know what you think about the games we've played. If you have any roll and write recommendations. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe because it means a lot to us. And thanks for watching. And now we have another wedding to go to.
Oh, yeah.
So, goodbye.
Goodbye.